So, GM everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of Coffee Chat at Alchemy University, a show where we chill out with some of the biggest names and influencers in the Web3 space. For our very first episode, we have someone from Alchemy team itself. You guys already know him. He's a developer advocate, a content creator, an instructor, and a rapper too. Ladies and gents, please give it up for Albert Hu, aka that guy in tech. Yay, let's go.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on this first episode of the show.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for being the very first guest on the show. I know you're really busy at Taipei Blockchain Week, so thanks for taking the time to be here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I actually I moderated a session today on Web3, the future of Web3 infra. That was my main focus for today at the conference, and then after that, it was kind of chilling, talking to people, and I was the next big thing was really looking forward to this conversation. So yeah, that's great.
So if you guys don't know, Albert and Vito actually used to host these sessions on the other Alchemy server when we only had Road to Web3. So it's really great to be able to bring this back for Alchemy University. Albert, it's been like what, a year and a half since you started at Alchemy. So how did it all start? Like, how did you sort of get into the Web3 space? How did you come across the blockchain/crypto industry? Take us back to when you had just finished your education, because I think a lot of folks at Alchemy University are students in college, including myself.
Yeah, question. And super happy to share my journey in case that's useful for people. So I went to school at UC Berkeley. I studied computer science there. Graduated from university in 2016. And my first couple of jobs were all in software engineering. So I for a very small company called Magoosh at first. They're still around. They build test prep software for people who are preparing for exams like the GRE, GMAT, TOEFL, SATs, these kinds of standardized tests. So they actually had in-house teachers and an entire technology team, software engineers, product managers, all working together to kind of create this really high quality education and then productize it into like a learning, tool that you can take practice tests, you can do quizzes, you can learn. So that was my first job out of college. I worked with the team to build this Ruby on Rails web application. They also had a React Native mobile application. And then I also built their very, very first Amazon Alexa voice application for, studying vocabulary. So it was a really fun time. It was great to kind of like work across this entire stack of different technologies. And it was while I was there that in around 2017, 2018, I got really, really, interested into Ethereum. I learned about Ethereum, learned about Bitcoin, learned about crypto and blockchain. And that's when I went down the crypto rabbit hole. And I was like, wow, there's some really amazing ideas behind this technology. And, of course, the money fluctuations and the hype, that was all, very interesting and was definitely an incentive for me to learn at the time. But I knew behind it, behind all the hype, there's something deeper that would really, really ensure that I wanted to work in this space or build with this technology long term. So that happened pretty early on. That was like 2017. And then I was so interested in it that I actually kind of went back to University of Berkeley as an alumnus to work with the Blockchain at Berkeley Club. And now this is one of the, I think the first and best university blockchain clubs that I've ever seen. The students that had founded it and the students that were running it at the time were they were doing so much work that they were actually receiving like consulting gigs from like Fortune 500 companies to help like teach them about blockchain or help implement some proof of concepts, like this kind of stuff. So they was super awesome. And so I went to that group and I was like, hey, I would love to learn and build with you guys so that I can, make sure that I have a network of people that I can learn with. And speaking of network, that's why we wanted to create this, Alchemy University space so that people here can have this network no matter where you are. I believe that's one of the biggest things that has helped me consistently through my career is finding the right network at the right time for the right things that I want to learn. So anyways, that's kind of like, I just kept feeding my interests and learning about it and building connections and learning with really motivated people. And actually in 2018, I decided to just quit my job working at Magoosh as a software engineer to try and like build Solidity smart contracts and just dive deeper into the crypto world. Even though I had nothing lined up there in terms of another full-time opportunity, I was like, I think this is like, a good enough direction to explore that something will work out. And actually something did work out. About a month, less than a month, I think, after I had quit the first job, another startup had offered me a role as a software engineer with them. And so I worked with them. They're called Amber Data. They're still around actually today. They were technically my first like crypto job. I worked with them for a short period of time. Really did a bunch of research. They were like a 3-person startup at the time. And I was the 4th. So it was very, very early stage. They were still trying to figure out like what the business even was. But I worked with them for a while to explore that, to implement some features. And this was going into the depths of like that bull cycle at that time. So it was like bear market after the ICO hype cycle. And so it was definitely a really, really tough time. And I think for me, being like still relatively early in my career, I was like, I think this is exciting, but also I need to be at a place where I can hone my software engineering skills a little bit more, like have more mentorship, work on a product that has a little bit more direction already solidified, and work on a team that has a bigger engineering team so that I can kind of learn from other people and build with them and focus a lot more on the hard skills that I know will be able to pay dividends down the road. Versus, working at a super early stage startup, everything is kind of unknown. I have to learn everything all at once. And there was a little bit less focus on like really good quality engineering skills. So that's when I made the hard decision to, look for a different job. I searched for a while. I worked really, really hard, studied up, did all my interview prep, did like hundreds of leak code questions, mock interviews with friends. Yeah, shout out to Shar Roy on YouTube. He does the really awesome explainers. I don't know if you've ever seen his videos, but around later in 2018, that's when I got an offer to work with a company called Samsara. And Samsara was this. They're still around, but at the time I was like, wow, this is really exciting. They're a company that does IoT, so Internet of Things. People know what IoT is, and what's cool is that the way that they worked with IoT technology was for like enterprise customers, essentially. So big businesses that have like fleets of trucks, or they have factories, or they have grocery stores. These big businesses that have kind of real world operations and supply chain needs. And Samsara would, create some of these hardware devices that you can then put into the trucks or into the factories. And then they would also build the software platform that allows you to visualize, here's exactly where each of the 100 trucks that my company owns and has drivers driving all around, let's say the United States or something like that. And I can see like if people are late for a shipment, or if there's an accident, or, this driver shouldn't be driving anymore because of government regulations, the safety regulations. They need to take a break pretty soon. So they built this entire truly full stack business. And so I worked with them on the compliance team to build out a lot of the, it's kind of like a TurboTax. If people know about TurboTax, it's like helps you account for all of your, your money and your income, and, how much taxes you have to pay, the kind of stuff. So it's a product where for us, it wasn't the tax part. It's like the driving hours. So people who are driving trucks, that the input of where are they driving, how long are they driving for, and then you put it through the algorithm that my team was building, and the output is, are you still allowed to drive a little bit longer, or do you need to take a break pretty soon? Now the idea might be the idea is kind of like simple when I put it that way, but it was actually such a core part of all of these operations for the customers that we were serving that it was one of the first things that would be on the table for a business negotiation. negotiation when they were like, hey, should we use Samsara? Should we buy Samsara software and hardware? And the question was, do they have good compliance technology? And that's the kind of name for the stuff that I was building and the team that I was building. So that was really cool. It was a great experience. We worked with Golang. We worked with TypeScript, GraphQL. It's a very modern tech stack. React on the front end and React and TypeScript combined. It was really, really cool. Excellent engineering team. Learned a huge amount there. And it was like great leadership. Everyone was very communicative, great teamwork, all of this stuff. And also the cherry on top was that IoT was this thing that was interesting to me because, as I was learning about blockchain and the blockchain data structure and how, when you're operating in this cryptographically secured world, you have this trustless environment where everybody can coordinate even though you don't trust each other. And the huge problem that I was seeing when I was learning about blockchain was it's great when you have entered the blockchain world, but how do you get real world data into the blockchain world so that it can be useful? And this was, early on, I didn't really know too much about oracles, Chainlink, or things like that. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe there's something with IoT here where, if you have these IoT networks all around, then you can translate a lot of real world data into digital format, and then you can leverage blockchain eventually and everything will kind of connect. So it makes sense if I want to join a different team that's not necessarily blockchain related, I should do some IoT stuff. So that's kind of a side note about joining Samsara. But I did Samsara for about 3 years. Saw the team grow from about 500 people all the way to 1,800. The company IPO'd last year, which was very, very exciting. It was my first time experiencing that kind of an event. And there was, there's some parties, celebrations. Everybody had worked super hard to kind of get the company to where it was. And then I had left early to mid last year in 2021. I left Samsara to actually pursue this YouTube creator program. And that's when I started trying to make YouTube videos. I applied to this program called the Nas Academy, Nas Daily Crypto Master Course. And this is a program where Nusair, who's the CEO of Nas Daily, partnered with Metakovan, who's a early crypto investor and billionaire at this point because of how early he invested in crypto. And they partnered together, and Metakovan was basically like, hey, I want there to be more content, more storytelling about blockchain and crypto. And right now there are content creators out there that are great, but then all they do is talk about crypto token prices and stuff like that. And it's not very, that's not going to be the stuff that really brings mainstream people into the ecosystem. And then now, especially with NFTs, and some more interesting use cases of DeFi, it'd be great to get more creators who are telling the true stories of the people and the movements that are going on. So what I want to do is I want to fund a bunch of these creators to learn how to make content and start succeeding in the world. So he partnered with Nas Daily to create this boot camp, this fellowship, and they were like, okay, we're gonna send out applications. You apply. We're gonna pick 70 people to be a part of this fellowship. It's not going to cost you anything. And we're going to teach you how to edit YouTube videos. We'll give you feedback on the scripting, the editing. We'll give you shortcuts. We'll give you, assets like stock footage and music and all this stuff. We'll introduce you to people in the industry. They're going to come in and do fireside chats so you can make content about them. And we'll introduce you to a network of sponsors who can, start working with you to kickstart your creator career. And if you listen to us and you show that you're working really hard in the first month of this fellowship, then we're going to pick out 50 finalists from this program to then pay 1 Ether per month to continue making videos for about 3 months. And that will be the whole, duration of the fellowship. And then from there, hopefully, you can kickstart your creator career. And so that was it. I saw the original announcement video of this program and I was like, wow, I've been following this guy for a while. I have, I've always wanted to do kind of more creative work in terms of content and building a brand. I would love to give this a shot. So, Catherine, my girlfriend, who's also CEO of Contribution Labs, she at the time she was not in crypto at all either, but she, you know, saw me looking at these videos and she was like, hey, you should definitely apply, you know, send something in. So I created this rap video that you probably see on my Twitter profile. That was the rap video that I used to apply for this program. And I applied, got in, and it was a great time. I learned a lot. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to actually, you know, quit my Samsara job. I've been doing that for a while. I kind of want to try something new. I'm going to give my all to this full time, see where it takes me. I have no idea where it'll take me, but let's just, you know, put my all into it. And then I had expected like to spend about maybe 6 months to a year minimum to just start getting some momentum and maybe building a brand and get sponsorships or, you know, something like that. I didn't even know what my niche would be in terms of crypto and blockchain content creation, but I was like, I'll trust myself to like find something out. It was actually 2 months into this process. I was still in the middle of the fellowship that I got connected to some people at Alchemy through friends who work there. And at the time, I think the company was like maybe 25 people. And they're like, I talked to Alon first. I don't know how many people here have encountered Alon. She does less Dev Rel work now, but she still is very, very involved with Alchemy Education. She's a product manager, leading a lot of our efforts to create new features and build the platform. But Alon was the person who first talked to me at Alchemy, and she was like, hey, you know, we need someone with a technical background, who's an engineer, who can relate to engineers, who can spearhead a lot of our educational efforts as we are trying to ramp up, you know, Alchemy growth. We have a really, really great, solid API, solid product. You know, we're solving a lot of really core problems in the Web3 space, but, you know, not too many people know about us, or, you know, we want to figure out how to amplify that. So, you know, do you want to, this is what she said to me. She was like, do you want to like do what you're doing basically with making YouTube videos and creating content, but like do that with a more full-time crypto Web3 flavor and join this like, you know, world-class Alchemy team. You know, we're building infrastructure. We have customers from all different verticals and yeah, just work with us full-time. And, you know, to me, you know, if you heard the whole backstory at this point, I'm like, I went headfirst into this new career direction that I had no idea what it would turn into. And I was like praying for this good possible outcome of like 6 months from now, maybe I'll work with some sponsors, to all of a sudden it's like, hey, like there's a synergy here. There's a skill set that I have that could provide a huge amount of value to an amazing company. You know, there's a full-time job opportunity here. That's really amazing, and working with really amazing people. And so for me, I was so excited to hear this. I was like, oh my gosh, this is kind of like a better outcome than I could have ever asked. And it was just an honor to kind of like have this opportunity to help build the space with everybody. So I was like, heck yeah, sign me up. Let's do it. I'll figure it out. I have no idea what the role is or like what's to come, but yeah, this is exactly what I'm prepared for. This is the challenge that I think is going to be really, really fulfilling. So yeah, that was about a year and a half ago. I joined under like 30 people, and we had so much to build. Like Hello World videos were my like onboarding task. And then from there, it was kind of like helping to interview more folks to join the team, working on more tutorial series, coming up with ideas to update our documentation and make that experience a lot better. And yeah, I'm going pretty in depth, but you know, ever since then, like you guys have probably seen a lot of the stuff that have been happening via Twitter or Discord updates. But a couple of the big projects at Alchemy since I joined were Road to Web3. That was an amazing, you know, first experiment into building community around educational content that could help, you know, create more blockchain developers and contributors in this space. And so when Vito had joined, a couple months after Vito joined last year, we came up with this idea and we were like, hey, let's try it out. Let's see if people are interested in this. And it was a super fun time building that like 1 week at a time. Shout out to a bunch of the ambassadors who are here. I see in the crowd, Killian, Emmanuel, GDG, and Ansh, of course, you're part of that. That was really fun. It was really cool. It validated this need that like, hey, there's educational content and that's good, but there's also this combination with community and walking people through it and having these cohort experiences. And so as we were building that out simultaneously, we were talking with the ChangeShot team And ChainShot has now turned into Alchemy University, the Alchemy University platform, and all the content that you guys are going through with the Ethereum Developer Bootcamp. So yeah, that's kind of where we are now. I know it was a long story, but yeah, hopefully that answered the question.
That's quite the journey though, working from tech to IoT, then to Web3 finally, also having a YouTube career in the middle. So you mentioned Chainlink, and that's exactly how I started, to get into Web3 as well. I remember I started all the way back in 2020, like the mid 2020s, and this was just before the 2021 bull market. And so I started out as an investor in crypto. And so when I first started, I was like, what should I invest in? I don't get this stuff. Like, what should I do? What coin is good? What coin's not? And then I came across Link, the Link token. And one of the advice I got was, check the project for that token. So I pulled up Chainlink, and at that time, like you said, I didn't know about oracles either. So that's actually how I got interested in the entire blockchain industry. And yeah, I think it was about 2 months later when I saw your tweet about the Road to Web3 project, and that's how I actually got involved in it.
Wow, that's very timely.
Yeah, I know, right? So yeah, so Albert's the reason why I'm here right now.
That's awesome. Good. That's good to hear. I'm so glad you're here too. But that's good to hear. I know I'm doing a job correctly.
Moving on, I think it's all right to say that the Web3, the boom in the Web3 industry in the recent years has sort of made Dev Rel, Dev Advocate roles more mainstream. It has brought these roles into a spotlight, because until a few years ago, I wasn't aware these roles existed. And so what's changed now that the companies are hiring more people for Dev Rel or Dev Advocate roles, and why do you think they are necessary?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the core thing about developer relations folks or teams, developer advocates, Dev Rel engineers, community managers, documentation writers, developer experience engineers, these kinds of roles all combine in my mind to Dev Rel. The key thing about this function is that it's all about bridging the gap between a technical product, as in like it's APIs or it's some service that is meant to be used by developers as the end customer, versus like, businesses or like more average consumers that are not like building something technically with a programming language. The difference is that, because your audience is developers, there's a very unique way that you need to like market to them or communicate the value of your products to them. And it's not by necessarily continuing to always like have these very flashy brand messages that might work for a lot of other consumer products, but it's that you need to like really clearly show that your service solves a problem. And the way that you might do that, the way that I've done that in the past is, creating tutorials, creating code snippets, making sure that the documentation is super, super easy to self-serve, so that if I'm a developer, I'm at a hackathon, I have a question, go to the docs, I can like easily find what I need to find to like unblock myself and try out the API and like build something. So the need for those things is very high in these types of businesses. And so many businesses, so many companies in Web3 and the blockchain industry, their end user is developers, because we're still kind of like we're just starting to leave the infrastructure stage, but we have for a very long time been in this infrastructure stage where everybody's trying to build different parts of infrastructure, different APIs, different smart contract protocols, things like that are the end user is still very much developers. And because of that, there's a lot of need for this type of a role, this type of a function, and Dev Rel type people are the perfect people to satisfy that role. So that's kind of why it's been so increasing in need so much. And I think as we continue on, through the depths of this bear market and onwards into the next, there's always going to be a need for this. Like there's such a huge explosion of different technologies and different products that people with technical skills are going to be consuming, that developer relations is going to continue to grow as a career path, as a valued role. So I think even if you don't end up doing a full-time like Dev Rel specific role, you end up becoming a software engineer, you end up becoming a product manager, or you end up being a community builder, whatever it is. I think having these skills of being able to learn something technical or try something technical, build something with it, and then share that building in public is super valuable, even just for yourself as an individual. By working on these skills, you're able to kind of compound the impact that you have in the community. You can show people like, hey, follow my progress. I'm learning this right now. I'm now trying to apply those learnings to this project at a hackathon, at Alchemy University Hackathon, whatever it is. And then now I'm actually coming up with some startup ideas, or I'm working on a startup project, a side project, and I'm trying to get some momentum, get some people to help me out with that. And, combining these skills of building something, using services that are technical, building in public, and gathering kind of people and interest is something that can help compound your career opportunities as well, hugely. So, I think those are kind of reasons and values and impact of why you should like work in Dev Rel, or why Dev Rel is becoming bigger and bigger.
So people on the internet are like, use Dev Rel and Dev Advocate interchangeably. Some people say they're different. Like, what's your take on this? I think we kind of use those terms interchangeably a lot. So I think it's kind of just arguing about definitions at some point. But I think when we talk specifically about like roles, or like exactly what value you want to provide when you're in that specific role, I would say there's kind of like different verticals of value that you can provide. So for example, there's type of work that's more like community driven. That's more like organization driven. So it's kind of like, how do you build something like Alchemy University, or how do you build something like Developer DAO, where you're bringing people together and you're giving people the space to kind of become leaders, showcase their own skills, and get people to meet each other and network, and kind of beautiful things will come out of that. And it requires a certain skill set to be able to create that type of an organization, especially when the audience is developer focused. So you do need to have some ability to kind of relate to them and gain enough of their respect that they want to work with you and they want to be in this space. So that's kind of like one vertical. It's like community management organization. There's another vertical of skill set that's like very technical, like, the dev in developer relations or developer advocate or whatever, related type of roles is very important. And for me personally, that took like many years to kind of gain that experience. But for others, it could be faster. You could be focusing on different, specific types of skills or tech stacks or whatever it is. So it's a different journey for everybody. But regardless, dev is important. And that's where you can kind of create gain the respect of the developers that you're trying to reach or represent them with your voice. So you have to, if you have certain experiences building with Solidity or working with different stack like Golang in the past or whatever it is, then you're able to create the memes that people can relate to, about like, oh, build times are really hard, or like JavaScript versus Python. Everybody can like kind of take part in that type of a culture and those jokes when they've had those experiences working with Python and JavaScript, for example. So the dev part is really important, and if you want to focus on that kind of stuff, then you're probably spending more time building, and you're probably spending more time closer to like product teams, or kind of gathering product feedback, this kind of thing, or going to hackathons and building proof of concepts. So that's like another vertical. And then I would say a third one is kind of like communication.
So we have community management, we have the developer part of developer relations, like technical skills, and then we have communication. And this is where you're practicing things like creating videos. You're talking to a camera, you're talking to people in real life at conferences, or you're creating blog posts, you're working on your written skills. How do you structure a tutorial so that people can follow through it really easily and it's digestible? These kinds of communication skills. So I would say like those 3 buckets of skills are kind of like the amount that you might exercise them or the amount that different roles require them can vary. And then that's when you have different roles this will really depend on the company too. So for me, it's really hard to define exactly what is what, but I just wanted to share, how I would think about the skills because different companies might think about it differently. But that's how you might start getting roles like developer advocate, developer relations engineer, documentation engineer, developer evangelist, community manager. So those are some common, roles and names of roles that you might hear about, but it also ultimately depends on specifically what project are you working with, what company are you working with, and what do they need. So sometimes the name of the role can change and you might be doing the same thing as a different role, but it just depends. So hopefully that's helpful.
Right. Awesome. So most of the people here are starting from the very basics, right? So how does one go from being a complete beginner to job ready for these roles?
Yeah, that's a great question. How does a beginner go from basically nothing to job ready? I would say I think it's really useful to think of the 3 verticals that I just introduced and focus on building any one of those verticals first. I think you could do a little bit of all 3 as you progress, but really figure out which of those 3 you like the most and double down on those as much as possible. And I think for me, I'm biased because this is my path, but I think working on the dev vertical has been really good for me because I think it's super hard to build that skill set. I even now I feel doing more of the communication and doing more of the organization management stuff over time. I definitely have less time to do the dev stuff and stay up to date with new technologies, new APIs, things like that. And so I find it super challenging nowadays. So I think it's always hard to keep up and keep your skills sharp with programming languages and actually building stuff. But I think that is super useful. So if you want to hone that skill, the technical skills vertical, I think going to hackathons, finishing the Alchemy University program, doing some leak code questions just to figure out different ways to use the programming language of your choice, learn different syntax, and really just building stuff in production and seeing how you can not only get an idea out there that's from 0 to 100 really quickly in hackathon style, but also working on something in production that has users over time. You really start seeing how you might want to architect and design a solution or refactor a solution so that it can be scalable and it can serve more users. And you start learning a little bit about how backends work more seriously. So, building that skill set is super useful. It pays dividends for a really long time because a lot of the core ideas you learn working on technical products, especially at scale, are very similar to in a lot of different verticals, a lot of different companies, products. And so then you're able to kind of take that with you no matter what you do. But I would say working on any one of these verticals and going deep in them first will pay dividends. It's just how good are you? How much can you stand out? And how much value can you provide using that skill set? So even if you're doing community management, it's really rare to find really good community managers who can kind of keep people engaged, run a Discord server well, come up with strategies to create kind of an identity or a voice on Twitter or LinkedIn or in-person meetups. It's really hard to manage all of that. There's a lot going on. So a huge shout out to the team with Alchemy University and Alchemy ambassadors, who are kind of running a lot of these things these days. That's also really hard. So I would say building a lot of these skill sets is really useful. And then of course the communication aspect, if you're spending your time honing your ability to write blog posts or speak in person or create videos, that's also a very, very needed skill set. And so even just, I would say like the mindset that I have with any of these is just try. Fail 100 times as fast as possible. Don't get caught up on creating one perfect thing right from the get-go. Even if you feel like you don't know what software to use, you don't know any programming languages, or it's like really hard, it's hard to find solutions to errors. I would say just like find 100 ways to fail as fast as possible, because you're going to see so many different iterations of something. And I think this is probably really applicable, especially with like content creation or communication, practicing communication. Like get up in front of a camera and record yourself giving a speech 100 times, or draft a video script and then, record that video. Maybe not that one video 100 times, but make like 100 videos and publish them. And even if they are absolute crap, you're going to get a lot of feedback from people. Maybe the feedback is like people aren't watching it, but like one of those videos people will watch, and then you'll be able to kind of develop that muscle and see like, oh, this is the way I should talk that will engage people. This is the type of content that people care about. And you start building that muscle. Probably same with community management. After you kind of are engaged and contribute to a lot of different communities, participating in Alchemy University guilds, stepping up into leadership, hosting your own events, getting community gatherings wherever you are, you kind of start seeing like, here are things that work, here are things that engage people, here's the value that's being created out of it, and do I care about it or not? Like there's always like different ways to improve at each of these different skills. And I'm sure like, this community can help people a lot with any one of those skills over time.
Exactly. So I think one of the key factors to sort of getting these roles is building in public, like showing off your work, creating content. So when you apply for these jobs, you're like, oh, I know this guy, he worked on this so-and-so project, or he did so-and-so.
Definitely.
Yeah. And in the announcement that you made today, you mentioned dark side of Dev Rel. So I'm going to assume it's not all rainbows and sunshines when it comes to this role. Would that be right?
No, that's correct. Yeah. Do you want me to speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm sure.
No, I'm just going to leave it a secret, and that's it. End of session. Thanks for coming, everybody.
That's for you to figure out. Just get the job and figure out the dark side.
Yeah, exactly. I think something I will share is like, from the outside, it might seem sometimes like, people in Dev Rel roles they're very public facing. I tweet a lot, I meme a lot, I might share a lot of like pictures about like the fun things going on and like traveling, meeting a lot of people. I'm a happy guy, so I feel like I can, I do get a lot of joy out of doing a lot of these things, and meeting people, engaging with people. But also it's like very, very tiring, like traveling from one place to another. I think last year I was in, I don't have the count off the top of my head, but like probably like every month I was in a different place. And sometimes I'm like in the place for so short that it's literally like go there, fly over to like, let's say the conference, and during the flight, I'm like preparing slides, like cleaning things up, making sure it's good to go. Get there, day one, like give the speech, and then talk to people. And as I'm talking to people, I'm actually like thinking, okay, here's someone I can introduce to our sales team. Here's someone I could introduce to someone else in the industry that I have a relationship with. Or this conversation topic that I'm having right now is something that could be turned into a tutorial. And I'm thinking about all these things. Then I'm taking notes right after I talk to them. And then at the end of the day, I'm compiling a report so that I can share with the rest of the company, or so that I can process a little bit later. And then that's day one. It's super crammed. And then, maybe get some sleep, or I'm jet lagged, I can't really sleep. Then next day, it's like a workshop or like a hackathon or something like that. And then right after that, it's like, okay, gotta fly out. This is the conference. It was 2 days, now we gotta leave. And then you don't really get a chance to kind of explore the city too much. It's not like a vacation, you're like stressed out because there's always like one next thing that you got to get to. So, there are a lot of good things about these opportunities that I've never gotten from any other job. So I appreciate those things a lot, like the meeting people and being in a new city, and getting to travel and things like that. But of course, the dark side, I think, is some of this like this stress of having so many things lined up back to back. And the example that I just gave was like conference travel. But I think even in general, this job, especially in a new industry at a newer company, when I say newer, I mean like pretty small for Alchemy when I joined. There's a lot of stuff to figure out. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't have structure. It's not like you join the company and all of a sudden it's like, okay, these are the 3 things that are assigned to me, and if I take care of them, I'm good to go. You kind of have to like be really, really on your toes, figuring out like how is the industry changing? What are people talking about? How does the team and the company changing, so that I can then figure out and define my own role. In the beginning, it was like, okay, I'll join the company, I'll make YouTube videos, and I'll convert a lot of our documentation into video format, and then make new documentation and new tutorials, written tutorials, and then kind of repeat that process. And that was like my first cycle, my first like direction or suggestion. And I was like, this makes a lot of sense. And I kind of took a lot of creative freedom to kind of build that type of a program out. And then as the company progressed, as we started getting more users, as we started building more APIs, it became like, okay, how do we develop more of a community feeling, right? And then because that requirement kind of changed, it wasn't just a requirement, it was just like that intuition that you would build from talking to people. The job also changes. And then it's like, okay, maybe I'll do a little bit less video myself. I'll work with other people for some videos or do more live streams. And then also let's build like a documentation writer team, things like that. And that changes. And because of that, there's so much of this change happening, whether it's physically at a conference, travel, or in your job, as your job evolves, that's stress too, so you have to be able to really handle this kind of ambiguity and vagueness and define your own career. And I would say that's kind of, it was clickbaity to say the dark side of Dev Rel, but I thought I would add it in there for some fun. But honestly, like it can be really stressful, and there are people who kind of like leave the job or like go back to software engineering or go back to like full writing or something like that, because it is actually pretty hard to manage. So that's something I would like caution people. It's worth trying, but I think like, be prepared for that.
Yeah, I saw the ECC vlog for this year. It looks super fun, but super tiring at the same time.
Yeah.
That
was a great time. Shout out to Aaron, actually, who was doing a lot of the behind the scenes work for organizing that vlog. But yeah, I'm glad you watched that.
Yeah, I did. It was super fun. I think we don't have much time left, but this is going to be very short. I came up with this segment called Speak Your Mind because I couldn't come up with a better name. But anyway, I have picked a few comments / tweets across the internet, and I just want your quick opinion on it. Okay. So some of them might be controversial or debatable, but let's get to it. Now, I know this caused quite the uproar in the Indian Web3 build space, but here it goes. Open quotes, Web3 is not developer friendly. Writing contracts is the job of a lawyer, not developer. TLDR, Web3 is not the future of Web2. Like this comment was in regards to not being able to fix bugs in a deployed smart contract.
Yeah, got it. My reaction to that, there's definitely some truth to this. The immutable nature of it, of writing a smart contract, deploying to a blockchain, and then it's kind of there forever and locked in history. It's scary. We've seen so many hacks happen in the space. And there have been patterns that have evolved over time, which I think make it not true. Like I think in general, I'm just gonna say I don't agree with that statement that quote like Web3 is not the next evolution of Web2, and it's more for lawyers than for coders. I think it's like, it's a cop-out answer, but I believe it's a nuance, right? It's like a mix of everything. But I think there have been patterns that have evolved, for example, over time that allow us to upgrade the smart contract. And you would have a proxy contract. This is something that you'll probably learn about a little bit later into the Alchemy University curriculum, and also like as you're exploring and building your own projects. But proxy contracts allow you to have this kind of like controller contract that then points some of its functionality to other contracts. And so you're able to kind of like deploy contract, that's the proxy contract, is the controller contract, and you deploy another contract that is like dedicated to the functionality that you want to have, whether it's like a DeFi staking pool or NFT minter or whatever it is. And so the proxy contract is the one that people will interact with. And when they like, let's say, call this mint function actually points to a contract at another address that has a function that's a mint function, and it would use that mint function as the actual functionality. And then, let's say there's a bug in this contract where you need to upgrade it or whatever it is. What these teams will do with the proxy contract is they'll actually point their proxy contract at a brand new deployed instance of a different contract. So the old contract will still be there. It's forever there in history. It's still there. You can engage with it in some way. You can see the code, all this stuff. But then the actual functionality that people are using in production points to a new one. And so I just wanted to illustrate that because there are examples of ways that, as engineers or as an industry, we've kind of evolved these patterns to be able to adapt. But I do think this quote highlights the scariness of working with money and working with smart contracts that can be handling this money in this way. So it's a good quote.
The second one is actually from someone we know. So it goes, open quotes, small rant. What I don't understand is why we are building everything that can be on Web 2 on Web 3. While there are some really great projects built, I don't understand the need for most of them. Educate me if I'm wrong, but do we really need a decentralized airplane tickets platform or a decentralized Airbnb?
Naruto,
yeah. Soon to be Dev Rel coordinator. Possibly, I don't think he's here. Oh, he's here.
Oh, I think he just joined. Hey,
yeah,
Naruto.
He just joined.
Yeah,
Awesome.
you just joined at the right time. Ansh just read one of your quotes that I saw pop up recently on the timeline. The one about why are we building all these like things in Web3? Like, does it really need Web3? I think that's a great quote and that's a great question. And it's something that we should always be asking ourselves in general with technology. I think this applies to not just like Web2, Web3, but also like any type of technology. I think as engineers or as builders, there's definitely this like optimism. There's this like creative desire that like, oh, I've learned about this new technology. I've learned about this new tool. I want to go and like use this tool on everything to see like what will work, or like, oh, like this could change a lot of different things. I think I saw this pattern, with when I was first entering the blockchain space in 2017. Everybody was like, oh my gosh, blockchains are amazing. You can like you can use Ethereum specifically to like spin up smart contracts and like create tokens, and like that's gonna make everybody like incentivized to like work together and all this stuff. We're gonna decentralize Uber and decentralize Airbnb. So these kinds of ideas have been there for a super long time. And I think it's good to have that optimism, but I think it's important to also like be like Naruto, ask the question of yourself, like, is this really what we need? Will this actually work? Is this actually going to provide value? I think that's really what it comes down to. Is it actually going to provide value? And I think by being optimistic, trying things out and experimenting, and then cutting away the things that are kind of like, oh, this is actually a stupid idea, like nobody's actually going to use this. Then we can like highlight the things that are actually innovative and valuable to people. I don't know about decentralized airplane tickets. I think maybe eventually like this could be one of those things that works. I don't know, somehow in like the context of a broader system or something like that. But I think as we combine some technologies that we're seeing, a lot of people have been experimenting with like AI and ChatGPT-3, stable diffusion, images. There's like innovations going on in VR and AR right now, and there's innovations going on in Web3 technology. Like, I think there are opportunities for us to like combine maybe the blockchain data structure and incentive mechanisms with some of the, AI and AI like language and image generation, or like VR stuff for the metaverse, and those are all like really big things that might take a long time to flesh out. But I think overlaps of technology are always really interesting. And then also kind of finding outdated industries that are like way behind on their use of technology, and then seeing how new updated technologies can innovate in those industries is also like could be a really smart idea. This is something that Samsara was doing at the time. There were a lot of companies that like customers of Samsara at the time, these trucking companies, these factory manufacturing companies, they were operating their entire businesses on fax machines and spreadsheets, like little paper spreadsheets in a back office. They would like have people with pencil and paper marking like who's working when and like how long have people worked and all this stuff. And Samsara came in and was like, hey, like we can use, cloud technology and software and some hardware to automate a lot of this stuff. And you don't have to use the paper anymore. It's going to be inaccurate. People are kind of fudging things. You're going to miss stuff. It's going to be damaging to your business. We can automate a lot of this stuff. It's cheaper for you and works even better and gives you opportunities to innovate on your business even more. So I think if there are ways that we can apply web3 stuff, some of these token mechanics, the incentive mechanisms, the collaboration and coordination abilities of blockchain, the like by default open data and open API nature of the space. If we can combine some of these things to apply to maybe some older industries or create brand new ones, I think that could be really exciting.
Yeah, I think these projects are good for practice if you just want to practice your skills. But some projects are just not applicable right now. Maybe in the future. But okay, so this is the last one, I promise. So DAOs won't become mainstream until. What do you think?
Okay, that's a good tweet, and then people are like responding to it. I should use it. DAOs won't become mainstream until. I think DAOs is kind of an overloaded word. It's kind of like, in my mind, it's kind of like saying like clubs or companies. I feel like DAOs act as both right now, actually, and more. So I feel like at some point, I hope that the term just like fades away as like this top level discussion, because eventually it'll be less about this term of DAOs and more about like what are people doing with it. You see an example like Developer DAO. It's kind of like it started out as a social group. It's kind of doing some more consulting work now. It's still a social group, but it's kind of like a mix of both. You have like Vector DAO. It's purely a service DAO. It's like a consulting group. They take on clients and they do work for other people. You have Constitution DAO. It's kind of like investment club, crowdfunding club. That pulled together a bunch of money to try and buy the US Constitution. You have Links DAO. It's like a membership group, social group, but also like people play golf together, and like they're trying to buy a golf course maybe or something like that. And then who knows, Alpha Leak, maybe Alchemy University DAO someday. I don't know. We'll see how the guilds do.
But like, you heard it here first, guys. Alchemy DAO probably happening soon.
Yeah, we'll see. We should all build it together, floating the idea. But as you can see, there's like all these different types of organizations and what are their goals and how they organize. So I think DAOs, maybe my long story short, I think like DAOs won't be mainstream until we stop saying they're DAOs. Maybe that's my controversial opinion. I think when they're mainstream, when they're truly mainstream, these organizations that have like shared bank accounts, use blockchain technology, have like some maybe governance mechanisms, whatever it is. By the time these types of organizations go mainstream, we won't call them DAOs anymore.
Okay, cool. Once again, thanks for being here, Albert. It really meant a lot. And I hope the audience enjoyed this as well. So
yeah. I hope everybody's enjoying this, and I hope this series is really great, and all the guests that you bring on, I'm sure will really love the session too. So thank you for being an amazing host, asking great questions.
Thank you. Thanks, Albert. Thanks for attending, guys. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.